Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Neurographica podcast. It's the first podcast dedicated to Neurographica. I'm your host, Maura, a certified instructor and a mentor in Neurographica. And in this episode, we will talk about Neurographica and how it links with spirituality. Today, I have a great pleasure to introduce you to our very special guest. It's Abigail Mensah-Bonsu. She's a highly regarded spiritual guide, mentor, and international best-selling author and publisher. Hi, Abigail.
Hello, my dear. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
I'm very excited to have you as well. Could you please tell a little bit for the listeners who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so you kind of, mentioned a little bit about what I do. So I work with women who are ready to remember who they are. They really step into that core true self. And I do this through spiritual tools. So one of the basic foundations in working with me is connecting with your higher self, connecting with your divine team, and also connecting to the true source. So above and below Mother Earth, Father Sky, and then your own center, that portal right at the center of you. And then from there, we begin to release anything that is not you. We remove all the jackets that have been placed on you that is not yours. And then we get to the core. And then from the core where you're like, I am, now you learn to navigate in this physical reality with you being an embodied divine self in human body. So basically the birth of the goddess. That is my work.
That's awesome. And isn't it the name of your business as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, lovely. Thank you so much. You've done a much better job at introducing yourself than I could ever dreamt of to do. So today we're going to talk about, as you know, Neurographica and spirituality. But before we go into that very specific point, can you just think back and tell us about your very first Neurographica drawing and how did you come across this method?
I thought about this. I was like, oh my God, how did I? I know it was like one of my teachers doing one of those, what do you call it? It's like she was doing a free class.
Yeah.
And I remember, well, first she had posted something and I looked at the finished work and I was like, that looks like a neuron. Now, my background is in psychology and pre-med. And so I love one of my favorite part of the human body. The first part is the brain. The second part is the heart. Yeah. It is the most magical. I mean, seriously, the human body is incredible. So I just love the human brain. And so when I looked at it, I was like, that looks like neurons connecting. It looks like mental process, like how things go on, in our brains. And I was like, this is fascinating. And it's an art. And so I did one of her free classes and I just fell in love because it was that combination of psychology, which I love. And then also you have that spiritual aspect of it, but it's also helping you to reprogram your mind in a way that is so simple yet powerful. Like when I'm drawing, when I'm putting what I'm feeling on paper and then using the rounding to kind of smooth things out. And then, maybe I'll have a mantra and I'll repeat it as I'm doing it or not. But as I'm doing it, I can feel it. I can feel things shifting, from the beginning to, how I felt at the beginning to the end. It's just like, wow. So I fell in love with Neurographica. And if you ask my clients, my friends, like I talk about it all the time. Like everybody needs to just do it. It is freaking amazing.
People will start thinking it's some kind of cult.
Well, they better because I'm so excited to teach my son. And right now I've taught my son how to do the catharsis because eventually I'll teach him the rounding and then, go from there. But, just having him put the emotions and he's 4 years. Put his emotion on paper, and then I would do the rounding and the coloring. Like it makes
that is very powerful.
That there's a tool that will help him out. Like when he's at school and he's feeling anxious, do a catharsis, round it up. Like it's so exciting to even talk about it.
Yeah.
So it is an amazing tool that more people need to learn about, and it's so fun. It's a great way to tap into your creative side, and especially as a woman, tapping into that creativity, letting it flow, but at the same time using that creativity, like transforming pain into beauty, transforming pain into art, the emotions, bringing it up, helping it to express, reprogramming certain should I go on like it?
No, that was great. Thank you. Do you actually remember what you were drawing on that first time? Was it a catharsis? I don't. You don't remember?
I would have to, like the first one, I don't remember, but I know afterwards I signed up to do her ancestral class. Yeah. And so that one was a whole process, and that was powerful. That was even before I did my basics course. And it blew my mind, like what we did in there. So that one I have it, but the first drawing, I don't remember what it looked like. I have so many drawings now.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So it seems like you have it as part of your life, and it's an important part now. Yes. How often do you think you draw a week?
Every day.
You draw every day? Actually, oh, that's awesome.
I just committed to a 30-day doing a catharsis every day, like doing the ARL every day. Yes. So I just committed to that, but I try to do it every day. It's part of my journaling process. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome. Yeah, it works really well with journaling process. For those who's listening, IRL is algorithm for removing limitations. The new name for it now is algorithm for lifting inner restraint. Yes. So it's keep changing and evolving. And I think because it's a method that came from Russia, there is always that conversation going on. What is the best way to translate the name of the algorithm, or kind of the forms and words that we use in the sessions? So it's all the same thing, an algorithm for removing limitations. It's the drawing that you start with a catharsis. Catharsis is when you scribble on the paper to release tension and emotions. And as Abigail mentioned, she even now introducing that to her son, who's only 4, but then finishing the picture for him, rounding, because rounding, I suppose, is probably the hardest thing to learn in the method. But once you managed rounding a neurographic line, there is really nothing much else to learn in terms of technical side of it. Yeah. I think the archetyping / coloring comes pretty natural to most people. And I'd say it's quite an accessible method, even for people who've never done art ever in their life, which I think that's why I also love it so much, that you can take anybody who has no clue how to draw color, and then after a couple of sessions, they're able to start drawing kind of their life. So going into the Neurographica, how long have you been drawing now?
It's probably 3 years now. 3 years.
3 years, yes. And do you have some kind of qualification, a level in the Neurographica?
I have. I just finished. What do you call it?
Specialist.
Specialist. Yes. That's the last one I just did. Yeah.
So you're gonna be able to take it to your customers and use Neurographica with your clients.
Yes, exactly.
That is very exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now we're gonna go deep into the spiritual side of it as well. So how does that fit in with what you do with the spiritual side, especially? Do you find that Neurographica helps you to connect with the spiritual side? Do you work on it through Neurographica? How does that represent your particular case?
For me, particularly, because I'm always connected to spirit. I don't need any tools to help me connect. But what it does is it brings through the messages, the connections clearly. So, for example, when I'm doing my daily Neurographica, my drawing, as I'm drawing, I will get a message and I'll write it at the back of the drawing. So it helps me. It kind of quiets my mind so I can hear clearly, if that makes sense. It helps the connection. It clarifies the connection. That would be like the best way. And there's so many ways, because sometimes my clients would do something like it's simple. I'll teach them something like I think the last thing I did was a tree, a neuro tree. And I had them I didn't tell them what I was going, I just told them to draw a tree. And then each of them, I just kind of looked at it and it's like, oh, you have fruits on there. Interesting. Let's talk about that. Like it's just like with art, especially the kids, when they draw, you can look at it and be like, oh, this is where you are right now. This is what you were feeling. It's the same thing. Like I can look at it and be like, oh, okay, in your life right now, you feel like there's a lot more fruitfulness, like you're receiving more in your life. You feel supported, you feel loved. And yeah, so it tells you a lot about where a person is, right? For me, I can see that. And I can also walk them through to realizing that. It wouldn't be like, oh, this is what you're going through. It'd be like, tell me about that. And then as they're talking, they're like, oh, wow. I put it on paper there. I had a client who, it was just a simple drawing, but then she ended up putting circles around. And when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, that's totally your team. And I was like, what is the circles? Tell me about it. What is the colors in the circles? She's like, I don't know. It felt like it wanted to be there. And I feel so loved and hugged by them. And I was like, tell me more. And she's like, I feel like it's like my guides. I was like, yes, it's your guides.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? I always find that it's like how you're able to pull almost like a subconscious message on the paper. And then because it's subconscious, no matter how you draw what you do, it will come out.
It will come out.
And it will come out on the paper. So do you have a favorite algorithm in Neurographica? I know. It's hard to choose.
That's a hard question. Oh, man.
Well, I'll go through some and maybe that will help you to remember. So we obviously have a neuro tree. We have shamanic rain. There is algorithm for removing limitations. There is composition, whole course and composition, where you use all the shapes, squares and triangles and circles, and kind of make it more of a complicated mind map. I always like to use that because my strategic brain kicks into that particular one. What else we have? Oh, well, we have the one to reveal intentions as well, which is very meditative. Meditative.
So
there you go.
The ones that I do the most. So I do the ARI, which is the algorithm. Oh my God, for revealing intentions. I do that for my weekly. So my calendar, I'll actually do it at the back of it for the week. So this was last week.
Oh, it's gorgeous. For those who unfortunately listening, I wish you can borrow my eyes. It's beautiful. Absolutely stunning.
All right. So I do it every week. And at the back of each week, I'll draw it to kind of give me, most of the time, like the circles, I have no idea what they are, but it just like, hey, this is my week. And they don't always look like the sun coming out. Like they're so different. And so I use that like weekly basis. I use the ARL a lot because it just helps me get my emotions on paper. It's part of my journaling. I love NeuroTree because the aspect of something growing, I love that. Like I can start out with a seed and I'll name it whether it's my business, whether it's a book, whether I'll just draw that and then just allow that. And just the thought of, oh, it's growing. It delights me, like
absolutely.
So if I were to choose, I would say those were my top three, because those are the ones that I actually draw a lot.
I can relate absolutely, especially to the tree. I think I have the whole forest now going with me, growing this forest on the paper. And I think there is endless opportunities and ways to draw the tree and the meaning that you could put with the tree, because it's such a powerful archetype. And like you say, it does allow you to grow, to bring fruits into the labor, to make wishes. It's just endless opportunities there, definitely. So that was quite interesting. So because obviously you're a very spiritual person, do you have your own maybe preparation or ritual before you sit down to draw Neurographica?
Breath work. Honestly, I keep it simple. I have a lot of tools and I teach a lot of tools, but when it comes to daily, everyday, like practices, it's just my breath. My breath connects me to myself. It anchors me into this here right now in my body. And then I can be present with what I'm doing. And as I'm drawing, then maybe sometimes an affirmation will come through. But mostly I draw to just quiet and listen. That is the whole, what do you call it? Like the practice, the ritual around my drawings. It's like, okay, I'm going to use my breath to anchor and be in the present. I don't want to escape this body. I don't want to escape my feelings. I want to be present, and I want to put it on paper so I can see what it is that I'm feeling, what it is that I'm processing through. So I want to be really present. So my breath brings me to the presence. And then I just commit to everything I'm doing. As I'm rounding, I tune into how I'm feeling, where, the pain, notice it's moving. Oh, it's not there anymore because I put the catharsis on the paper. And I'm paying attention to my body. And then I'm also listening to what messages are coming through and making sure that I write them down. So that is it. No, nothing complicated. Sometimes I will do it after my meditation, but it's not because the meditation is not, I'm not doing it because of the drawing. It's because it's something that I just do. So it just depends. Sometimes I do it right after my meditation because it's just perfect time and I have the time to do it. But most of the time it will be like later on the day that I draw, but the meditation is done early in the morning. So yeah, it's just my breath. My breath connects me and then I move from there, I flow from there. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. I was like expecting, crystals and
no, we're keeping it simple.
I love that because I love simple as well. I think a lot of people, when they start art or think about art or Neurographica, I suppose, represent an art form in some way. It's the barrier that you need so many things to get started. Maybe you have to have the whole professional pencil set or, crystals and something else. But all you need is one marker and a paper. And maybe a few colors But again, you could use highlighters, like real simple office supplies or, steal pencils from your child. So you don't have to even go and buy anything.
He steals mine.
I'm in that theme because I've got all the best stuff now. So they come and steal my stuff.
I'm like, no, I got you your own for a reason. Leave mine alone. But no, if you're going to be committed to something for long term, the key is keeping it simple. I have integrated this into my life. It has to be simple. It cannot be complicated. Yes, I have all the tools. I can make it as, spiritual and ritualistic as I want. But how many times would I be able to do that? I'm a mother to a 4-year-old. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business. I don't have the time to do that all the time. Maybe every, special occasions, I'll do it with a group that I'm drawing with, but it has to be simple if I'm going to be doing this more and integrating that into my life, and it's all about intention. Like I know the crystals, the plants, they're always with me. I don't need to hold them to tap into their magic. That's the thing. It's like they're always with me. I can just set the intention. I need more peace. I need more peace in my mind and in my heart and in my life. And I'm just going to flow from there. I think operating from that place, you open up for more to come to you versus like, okay, I have this crystal and I have this candle and it's like more structured. You kind of just tighten up. So the real essence of what needs to come through, it kind of it has a hard time coming through. Right. But when you just be human, show up as you are. Like that's the key. When you're able to do that, you'll be amazed what comes through. Yeah.
No, I couldn't agree anymore. And like you say, it just less distractions. All you have to have is a paper in front of you. And all you have to do is set an intention. Because I think one of the reasons I am into Neurographica, I'm a very driven person. I don't do anything if there is no purpose. It's just the way I was created and raised. Yeah. So for me, it's like always at least two things I'm doing. A, I'm setting an intention and I'm working towards it. And B, I'm doing something creative with my own hands. And then at the end, I've worked through my mental block or hard emotion, and I have a beautiful picture to show for it, or not so beautiful. I mean, who cares what it looks like as long as it works? We're not like here to represent ourselves in a gallery. I think Neurographica is so much of a reflection of your inner self. I call it inner selfie. It's like whatever is inside you in that moment in time, that what comes out, and it doesn't last forever. It's not like you drawn that picture and that represents you for the rest of your life. It just represents that particular moment as you were drawing.
Yeah. I love what you called it, inner selfie. I love that so much. You need to start putting it on all your art. This is my inner selfie today.
I actually have a domain that's called Green Selfie. So because I always see it as an alternative to kind of your physical appearance. The only way you can, I suppose, capture your inner essence is by doing something, by creating. And whether that is, I don't know, sculpture or scribble on the paper or Neurographica, that kind of is a big representation of what holds inside you. And I love that connection. I think that's how I see spirit as well, that through drawing that, I'm able to connect to my own spirit. And like you say, to sit down, focus and be present, because it's a presence kind of practice. You allowing yourself to be present, to show up for yourself, like I said, dedicated yourself some time, show up, have a concentration to be present in the moment. And for those who have a very high energy and find it difficult to be present in total silence and no motion, when I'm talking about meditation, I think this is the best thing, because like for myself, I struggle to sit down and do nothing. But by drawing Neurographica, I can still be meditating and being present, because I am involved in the process of creation. Do you find that link as well?
Oh, absolutely. There's a couple of things that wanted to come. Okay, so the first thing, because you were talking about Neurographica, like how you were raised and it helps you kind of soften. Like mine is that here, my mind is always busy. Like that's why journaling is a non-negotiable for me, because it can get crazy in the mind. So Neurographica just helps me to take all of that busyness, everything that I'm planning, and just put it on paper so I can just have that relief, right? But I also wanted to talk a little bit about spirituality. A lot of people think of spirituality as something that they have to be or become or do or look like. And the real definition of spirituality has nothing to do with anything outside of you and everything to do with you connecting with yourself. That is spirituality. It's between you, your own divinity, source, your guides. Is you. It's all you. And if you can give yourself that space to connect to you, that is spirituality.
That is a really good explanation. I always, when I have like dates with myself, it's always me, myself, and I. So like three of us, we get together and we have a great time.
Totally. I mean, we are dynamic, beings. We are multidimensional. And when you take that time to spend with yourself, you'll be amazed what comes through. I mean, even looking at past lives, future self, like other dimensional selves, these are all you. Like there's an aspect of you right now, living in a different dimension, living a life that you're craving for right now. And if you could connect to that aspect of yourself, you can just pull through that knowledge into this lifetime and help you create that experience in this lifetime. We have that ability.
That's so cool. I love that talking about the past life, the present life, and the future, because that's in essence what the conjoining and rounding is for. That the whole layer is just dedicated to yourself, like all the conscious and subconscious and previous conscious, and then you can work in all directions. If you only believe in the present and the future, you can just work that part. If you're more open to explore the past and previous lives and lived experience, you can work into the kind of other dimension and kind of go into the circle, expanding all of that. How do you where do you stand on collective spirituality and collective subconsciousness. How do you work with that energy?
I feel like I work with that energy because it is my mission. It's part of what I'm teaching. And so it comes through that. I have to understand what we are going through together in order to help one woman find herself in that collective, right? Because we are all on our own journey, but when we come together, we are on a bigger journey that influences and affects all of us, right? So understanding. So for one of the things I do is the energy forecast to really break it down. Okay, this week, these are the energies that we're working with. This is the bigger soup or the bigger ocean that we're all swimming in. But within that ocean, this is what you could experience in your own life, right? So it's good to understand both. I feel like most people focus too much on that bigger outward, like this is what the world, the bigger consciousness is going on, and it gets overwhelming. That's not where we're supposed to put our focus, unless you're a teacher, unless you're a leader who's supposed to hold that frequency. It is very much mission driven. You have to be able to have that frequency to be able to navigate both worlds. Otherwise, you just get overwhelmed, right? And so what you're supposed to do in order to affect the bigger consciousness, the bigger world, it begins with you. That's why we always say that. You work with your world. When your world is good, it's going to ripple out and you're going to start seeing the changes in the outer world. And so that's why if you hear like spiritual teachers always saying, you like come to you, because your world is big, but your world has to be good. And then you begin to see the ripples in the outer world. And if we are all focused on our world and cultivating what we want and cultivating the joy and the love and the peace in our world, then we will be able together bring it together, amplify it, and then we'll be able to see it in our world, right? So really here, that's why, Neurographica, like all of that is bringing you here so you can pay attention to what feels good here. Yeah. What do I need here? Because when this right here feels good, when my world is good, the world around me has no choice but to shift. It's as easy as that. And also the hardest.
Yeah. And you just nailed it there, I think, with this philosophy of Neurographica, because I think we always start with ourselves. I mean, one of the biggest things that I teach in kind of all my workshops and classes is that it always starts with us. It's like you can't change your neighbor, your child, your partner, the world around you. You can change yourself. You can adjust how you feel, how you present, how you turn up, how you project energy, what your energies bring in, what message does it have. If it's a positive message, like you say, then ripples into your family, that your family ripples into that bigger, wider circle, neighborhood, and so on. And that becomes like that contribution. And part of the teachings is that we always accept responsibility for everything that happens to us, isn't it? Because that energy is attracting the outcomes in your life. So if I'm bringing positive energy, then I will attract more good things into my life. But if I'm like jealous or angry, then I will also get more of that, because it's like a mirror, isn't it? We always get what we give.
So that statement is always very fascinating to me, because I feel like, especially in the spiritual community, it's almost like saying that you are not allowed to feel the bad, because you're going to amplify it in the world. And here's the truth. And I hope this alleviates some of the, the tension that comes into the body or the mind when you hear that. We're here to have a human experience, which means that we're going to experience both the bad and the good. Here's the thing. Me, with everything that I do, with all my rituals, with being as conscious as I can be, being a good person as I can be, I still have my bad days. But when I have my bad days, it's not rippling into the world, creating that, because I am conscious of it. When you're having, like, let's say, if you're just angry right now, and you're like, oh man, I'm going to create anger in my life. No, stop there. When it starts mirroring is because you're not paying attention to it, because you're not looking at yourself. You're not moving through it. So it's like the universe has to get your attention in some way. So the universe is going to bring you someone who shows you the same anger, and you're like, it's like mirroring your own anger to you so that you can see it. And if you still don't see it, then it keeps rippling and get more and more intense, right? But all of that is saying, hey, this is within you. Can you just look at yourself? Look in the mirror. This is you. Come back to you, right? Yeah. Shift within yourself, right? So don't be afraid, like, oh, I can't have a bad emotion. It has to be all love and light. No.
I think you really contributed to that conversation because, absolutely, I agree with you. We are all humans, and I experience all the ranges of emotions, and helps to be conscious about them. It's about the processing those emotions and being able to let go and not identify yourself with the emotion because they come and go. So it's just because, like you say, you're having a bad day or you're feeling angry doesn't make you an angry person or a bad person. You're just going through the motions. You can process, you can adjust. But exactly, it's the unconscious behaviors that we can repeating all the time without noticing. That could be even, I don't know, snapping at the kids all the time. Then they start snapping back at you. It's
exactly.
Like, hang on a second, you don't respect me. I was like, well, mother, you've just been doing that to me for the past 5 years.
It's true. And that is really what we live in. You know, when our unconscious mind is the one leading, which it is, because most people are not aware of the cassette that is still playing in the background, you know, and the pain, the trauma, like all of that they've hidden. They think, oh, I put it in a box and I locked it, so it's going to stay there. No, it's not. It's creating a reality so that you can finally face it. Which means that's going to be a very painful reality until you sit with that pain, right? So everything is inviting us. It's an invitation for us to come back to us and do the healing, see what we need to see, move through whatever we need to move through, and just be honest with ourselves. Just be honest with ourselves. It's as easy as that. Because sometimes you might be going through something bad and you're, you know, like maybe you're angry and you're like, I tried everything, but I'm still angry. Be honest with yourself. I am angry right now. I can't figure it out, you know, but I'm still moving forward. I'm taking the steps, right? Yeah. So when I say being honest with yourself, that's what I mean. It's okay. It might take a week for you to move through it. It might take a month. It might take a year or years. However you need, it's your own journey. Nobody gets to tell you when it's done. You get to choose that. We have that choice. We know ourselves. Well, we're supposed to know ourselves, right? That's when we come back to ourselves, right? Yeah. But we get that choice. We really get to choose to say yes to the invitation of coming back to ourselves and learning about ourselves and moving through our emotional, mental, and physical and spiritual bodies and realms and learn more and expand from them and heal and be human as much as we find.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, be human is part of it. Like you say, it's going through the motions, and we can use different tools to help us to make the process easier or perhaps guided.
Yes.
The Neurographica is a method for a reason, because there is actually like 8 steps and a framework that you can rely on. So I think for people who potentially don't have a massive experience in the art or the creative flair to come up with their own healing method or a picture, you can have that method that guides you through. Okay, well, first you start with yourself, you work with your inner energy, then you move into your kind of egregors, your local connections, then you go into the archetypes and you collect with the wide, and then you finally reach to divine energy and connect with the field and get in all the juicy good stuff that we normally struggle to tap in. So have you got your own personal stories, maybe like a profound spiritual experience while you were drawing?
Wait, repeat the question again.
Sorry, I was just like, switching to the question.
Like,
so because you've done Neurographica for 3 years, I was wondering if you have a memory of maybe a special drawing that affected you, that in the moment maybe you had a vision or a revelation or perhaps an insight during the drawing of Neurographica.
Yeah, so it was when I did the ancestral series. And one of the class, you choose an ancestor, and it's kind of like neurosketching, right? Where you move through it. And for some reason, I was like, oh, maybe, I mean, I don't have any pictures of my ancestors, like back home, but my grandmother's picture, I was like, well, she's still alive. Like, how does this work? But I trusted it. And It was the hardest thing. I couldn't, it took me a while to complete that. It took me a year to complete hers.
Wow.
It was very fascinating. I just could not. And when I completed it, I remember looking at it. I was like, God, this is very weird. She looks like she's about to leave, but she's very happy. And that year she left. Like that's when she died. And I looked at the picture. I was like, oh, you were telling me that it was time for you to go. And like just breaking down the picture, like she had a smile, and it's like she was just ready to go. And even one of the dreams I had after she left for my mom, like my grandma came to me and she's like packing her stuff, and like she's sad because she was waiting for my mom to see my mom again, because my family here, but they were still back home. And I told my mom that. I was like, I think she's waiting for you, because she wants to tell you something before she finally leaves, this plane. And yeah, when my mom went back home, I was like, how did it go? She's like, yeah, I felt at peace. It felt like her presence was there, and then it felt like she left. I was like, yeah, she needed to see you first. Right. But that whole experience, it blew my mind, because I was like, why am I choosing, I had a picture of Mary Magdalene because she's my spiritual mentor. I had, like other guides that, I was like, yeah, this is like a guide, but her picture drew me in, and she was still earthside. And so it didn't make any sense at all. And the whole drawing, I mean, a year to finish it. And it was just like grueling and not accepting it, and her death hit me in a way that I didn't think it would. And my grandmother and we have a very strong connection in terms of like my birthing story, like how I was birthed, like I was born dead, and she's the one who brought me back to life. So we have this connection there. And that connection came through very powerfully through that entire experience. Like I'll never forget it. Like that drawing is still there. I'll never forget that experience with Neurographica. Yeah. Like how that came through.
That is absolutely beautiful. And thank you for sharing that, because it's a very personal story, and I'm really sorry for your loss as well. I know what it's like to lose grandparents. I've had a nana of my own who is very dear to me, and a granddad as well. So I was quite blessed actually to have them in my life into my 20s. So, I can't complain, but it's still sad. But it's interesting, I think, with grandparents, because as a child, you always grow up kind of knowing that they're gonna go soon.
Yeah.
So I think the acceptance there comes a lot quicker than perhaps in compared to your parents. And I have the most like cherished kind of memories, and when I see daisies, I always think about my grandma, because I used to collect daisies for her in the field. It was like it was free, but it was such a nice thing to do. She loved daisies, and I always will pick her a bunch, and that's some kind of link. Every time I see a daisy, I think it's my grandma saying hello to me. And I don't want to think about it in any other way. About daisies.
That. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And I love how you talked about the Neurographica drawing, and that it took you a year. I think there is who's been drawing misconception that you just did a picture and that's it, and you put it somewhere, you never see it. But then I think one of the magic with Neurographica, they can pick it up after a year and start drawing on the same page. Totally. And you can add new lines and new circles. And if you place it somewhere in a visible space, and I've seen your Instagram channel, and I know you have drawings all over the place, and they're such a powerful energy source, and you can tap into whatever you created on that picture in that moment. When you look at it, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm seeing that resource right there. Yes. And then how do you find that? Is that why you have pictures on your walls?
I love, so let me see. I was going to move the picture so you can kind of see some of my drawings. So I tend to put like my year drawings. So one of my teacher does this every year where we tune into the energy of the year, and then we do a drawing out of it and see what comes through it. So I tend to keep that on there. And then I would do, the drawings that really called to me. Like I did a drawing of it looked like me, but it's like an angel with wings. And I did that when I have that on there, and it's like my guide for the year. Right. So I would do the yearly drawings and put it on there. And then as I'm drawing throughout the year, there's certain drawings that will pull me in, and I'll put it somewhere because they hold an intention. They hold an intention that is unfolding. And that's what I feel like. Those are the ones that make it on my wall, because the rest are in my sketchbook. They're in there. And sometimes I'll flip through it, but I don't look at it as much. Right. But the ones that end up on the wall, they hold bigger intentions that are unfolding in my life. That's how I kind of feel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. So for the listeners, I'm going to challenge you here.
Yes. Please do.
Yeah. What would you recommend to draw, or maybe some kind of process that would help them to connect with that spiritual energy, with spiritual essence within through Neurographica? Maybe you have kind of a tip for that.
One of my favorite ones is drawing circles. The challenge of drawing 40 circles.
Yes.
There's something about drawing circles that it just feels so freaking good. It feels really good. And once you learn about the rounding piece, so you draw the circles, you don't have to do 40, but just draw your circles and then begin to round where it touches each other. And then you can bring in the line. So I always say, like, the lines is like, if I'm drawing the circles and I have intention, like I need an idea, for example, like I need a title for my video. That's just an example. So I do the circle, and the lines is like I'm connecting to my environment. Okay. The resources around me, I'm pulling that through. So I bring it through the circle. It's like, okay, bringing through. And then when I do the field line, it's like, okay, divine, what is that title that needs to come through? And I bring it through the circle. So, I mean, that's even complicated. Just draw the circles around where it touches, and then bring through the lines. But when you're thinking about the lines, think about the resources that are around you that you might not be even aware of, and you're opening yourself up to receiving that resource or those resources. And so you use the lines to pull it into yourself. And then with the field line, you're connecting to the divine, and you're pulling more resources into yourself. Like, that would be a beautiful practice to do. And it's very simple. Yeah.
Thank you. And what about the colors? Do you find that there is specific link with spirituality and color?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When I did Neurocolor, it blew my mind, because it brings in that ancient wisdom of the I Ching. Was it the I Ching or what is it called? The Wu Xing. It's the Wu Xing.
Yeah, Wu Xing.
And my background, one of my background is traditional Chinese medicine. So I didn't see that coming. I thought we are just going to talk about colors like art, and it blew my mind, bringing through the elements of it, red, root, fire, it's like, oh my gosh. And using that to balance the body, it took it to a whole different level. So when I'm choosing certain colors, I'm paying attention to it. And to be honest, most of the time I don't choose it. I don't choose colors because I want to choose it. I look at my drawing and I say, okay, what wants to be on this drawing? And then I choose that color, like, intuitively. And then I kind of just see where it goes. And then afterwards, I'll look at it and be like, oh, look at that. I have a lot of yellows, or I have a lot of reds. Interesting. I'm bringing more fire in, or I'm connecting to the sun to warm me up, or the green. Oh, I'm healing, or I'm connected to I'm bringing more nature abundance into it. So the interpretation comes in after I've used the color, but it is powerful, but that's where my resistance is also at. Like, like I tend to get stuck. If you notice, like one of my neurographic artists back there, it kind of blends in with the tapestry at the back.
Okay.
But I kind of get stuck after I just leave it in the black and white for a while. Because with the colors, I have this, it's like I want it to look perfect in a way. And I feel like I'm not doing it justice. And so it's like there's this resistance when it comes to the colors. Where lately I've been noticing that a lot, especially when it's, big ones like that. If it is like my weekly drawings, those ones are easy. But if it's like, like
there's the perfectionist in you kicks in there.
Yeah, it comes out with that. And I'm really noticing myself on that. It's like I have black and whites that are sitting around and I'm just staring at it. Like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm just appreciating just the black and white, the contrast, which says a lot about life, like just appreciating the contrast, the duality in our lives. And then also, when will I be ready to bring in that color, bring in the life into that duality? Right. Yeah. So that's where I'm playing with, right? I know it's all part of my healing. Like just
absolutely.
Yeah.
That color is a big one. I think it can be so rejuvenating. Bringing the color, in my experience, it pretty much 100% time when I bring color, I always have burning cheeks. It just comes together all the time, because I think it's the motion of this quick strokes and the color and seeing it and feeling it, and it comes through my physical body all the time. But I know what you're talking about, the pictures when you don't want to color. And then it could be both. One is there are certain pictures that are not meant to be colored. They're supposed to be stained the way that they are. But then if there are more and then you keep getting the same block, then you need to look at what is it that you're drawing in that particular ways, because obviously you come into resistance with your archetypes, which is a really big energy. And you'll be thinking, well, which role is like, pushing me kind of away or against me, that you need to go into the eye of the storm sometimes with that to work through that resistance. But I mean, resistance is the whole I think new topic that we could talk about in Neurographica. It's like overcoming those blocks through the process, because although it's art and it can look very pretty, there's some turmoil that you have to go through, and then as we draw, we feel it in our body and in emotions. And it can be very uncomfortable. Yeah. It could be tears. There could be distractions. Yeah. And it's not always pretty. And you could feel suddenly very, very tired, even if you had energy before you started. And then that's where you feel, oh, I want to stop, but don't do it again. And for those who are trying for the first time, if you get to that point where you feel, oh, I don't want to do it again, it means you're just reaching the right point in your drawing. It's working, because our brain is very resistant of change. And it wants to keep the status quo and keep you exactly the same. Even if you're very unhappy, it's still safe. Yeah. So it's pushing through the resistance is a big part of getting to the where you want to be. And like you say, also accessing that spiritual essence, because if you can't overcome the challenge of, getting to yourself, then you will be stuck at just the first physical layer and won't be able to go into the other layers of me, yourself, and I, connect them all together. It's like a puzzle, and then you have to have a little shovel in the form of mark, and you kind of dig in and get to like peel yourself like an onion a little bit. Exactly. I think for the process. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that you mentioned that not all of them want to be colored. I love that, because it gives me the permission to just let it be, because I think I felt like I needed to put colors in all of them. And so it's like just looking at it. Do you want colors? No? Okay. Then I'll leave you like that. But that was, I love that. I love that a lot. Because some of them, I will leave it and then later on go back in there, look at it, and then add colors. And others, it's like, no, I don't want to color this at all. I love how it looks like,
But But white is a color, so is black. And
yes,
you know, how you look at it, sometimes you look at it and you think, well, the page looks empty, and you look at white color as a space. And other times you look at the page and it feels full.
Yeah,
full of
exactly.
Full of light, or full of light, or full, like you say, of that duality. Perhaps some things are black and white. Some things that you feel about are black and white. They might not be. It's subjective, and it's your personal experience. And I think the way I see Neurographica, or any method that we apply, whether that is yoga, meditation, breath work, there is always that personal essence that we bring into the practice, that little bit of yourself, a little bit of creation. So you make it your own. You make it how it works for you. In the end of the day, that's your inner world that you're drawing, nobody else's. So who is it there to say that it has to or have color or not? Because that's you. That maybe that at that point in time when you were drawing that picture and working on your inner essence, that was black and white in your brain, you know, or in your soul, or in your heart, and that's how it came out. And that has got nothing to do with anything else. Yeah,
I love that. I love that a lot. Like now I'm going to go through my sketchbook and the ones that I haven't colored yet, and look at what topic I chose for them, and kind of I'm curious to see which ones, you know.
Yeah, because if there is a pattern, let's say you always have black and white pictures when you draw finances, then I'd be thinking, well, there is certainly something that blocks you. But if you're just absolutely random, then it's kind of, maybe that's how it should look, because that's the finished process and you're completely satisfied with your drawing.
Exactly. Oh, I love that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to help. So I think we are getting to the kind of bottom of spirituality. We've discussed a lot of things today, and I loved how our conversation was going into different pockets of the method, and the connection that of spirituality is definitely there. And what helped me as well, your very simple definition of spirituality. I think, like I say, a lot of people see spirituality as like going to church, or like praying, or doing something else, and it doesn't have to be anything of that sort. You don't have to ever leave the house to be spiritual. You don't have to wear, I don't know, bohemian style yoga pants to be spiritual. Well, you don't.
There's a whole passion with it, yeah.
Oh, this is it. But, you know, I was like, I've been to a retreat which was very spiritual, and people look so different, and they show up in their day-to-day different. And, you know, looking at them from the surface, you would never know whether they're spiritual or not. Exactly. And then they, you know, they all have makeup and, you know, false eyelashes, and you start speaking to them and they talk about their spiritual animals and guides and, you know, the witchy voodoo things that they do, and it's amazing. I think it's got so much kind of potential and definitions of what it could be. Could mean to you, it could be connection with God. It could be believing in the higher power from the universe or Mother Earth. It can kind of come up in any essence. It's I guess anything that is part of your core is spiritual, and also everything that is kind of bigger than you, like nature, is also spiritual. And then, you know, whether we want it or not, we somehow belong to both. We have an inner core and outer environment that we all plugged in from birth. It's just choosing whether you not you want to kind of give and receive and open that channel to be part of something very small inside and big outside and all that.
Yes, you got it. That's a great summary.
Yeah, so I think on this note, I would like to just really thank you for coming to this podcast and being my first guest. Like we discussed, yay, we are making a history today as the first podcast that is dedicated to Neurographica. I feel very blessed to have you as the first guest, somebody who's been drawing for 3 years and a specialist in Neurographica, and somebody who's dedicated to the method as well, drawing every day. Because I think with like any practice, if you do it regularly, it works. And Neurographica works if you do it regularly. I think that's kind of been proven through many examples. For our listeners, I would just like to say, please check out Abigail's work and her wonderful website. I will post the link underneath the podcast, so make sure to check that out. And also, she kindly gave us all a freebie, which is a meditation to help you find your center in the midst of the storm of life. So make sure you take advantage and grab that as well. So Abigail, thank you so much for being my guest today. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for having me. This was quite exciting. I love Neurographica, and then you mix it with spirituality, and I have to hold myself back. It's so much goodness. So thank you. Thank you for having me, and especially for your first guest. And thank you for doing this so you can talk more about the magic of Neurographica, and more people can learn about it and tap into this resource that can really, truly help you change your life, your mind, your heart, your energy, like all of it. So yes.
Yeah, thank you so much as well. And hopefully we'll have other podcasts together.
Yes, just let me know.
I will let you know. Goodbye, Abigail.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.